Go ahead and get started. It is truly my pleasure today to introduce Carly Noel, who is the Vice President of Operations and Education for Red Rover. Previously a classroom educator, Carly holds a bachelor's degree in child development and a master's degree in education from California State University, Sacramento. Carly is a certified humane education specialist. She previously served as a board director for the Association of Professional Humane Educators and currently sits on the board of directors for a youth development organization called First Love Yourself Inc., or FLY. She is honored to serve in a position that allows her to work with people, animals, and education to make the world a kinder place. Carly, we are so very excited to have you here with us today, so please take it away.
Thank you, Danielle. It is wonderful, wonderful to be here with you. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for sharing your time with us. As Danielle mentioned, my name is Carly Noel. I'm currently serving as the Vice President in Operations and Education at Red Rover. And before we get into a brief brief overview of what Red Rover is and why we're here today, just want to take a moment and acknowledge the land I'm coming to you from today, right near Sacramento, what is today Sacramento, right by the headquarters of Red Rover, on the native land of the Nisenan people. And I grew up about 30 minutes west of here, on Patwin land, what is now known as woodland. I grew up with a ton of animals, and my mother constantly gave them names, voices, and personality. So it is no wonder why I went into animal welfare and education. Thanks, Mom. I'd also want to just thank Minhan Takamoto, also on the call here. Without Minhan's vision and organization for this content, would not have come together like it has. So thank you very much, Minhan. All right. So hopefully everybody knows that they are here for Healing Through Humane Education, how the Red Rover Readers program builds empathy and resilience in children. Hopefully that's why you signed on today. And we'll go ahead and go to the next slide then, huh? Thanks. So brief overview of Red Rover. We were founded in 1987, and so that means we are coming up on our 40th anniversary next year. Very exciting. We work to bring animals out of crisis and into care and to strengthen the bond between people and animals. We do this through three main programs. We have our Red Rover Responders program, so temporarily sheltering animals who have been displaced due to man-made or natural disasters like floods or fires, or even puppy mills, until those animals can be reunited with their humans. We also have our Red Rover Relief Program, that is financial assistance for veterinary emergencies to keep the animal and people together, keep that family together. Under our Red Rover Relief Program, we do have our Safe Escape and our Safe Housing domestic violence initiatives, helping to help everyone escape a dangerous situation and keeping pets with their people during domestic violence crises. And we have our Red Rover Relief Program, Red Rover, which one haven't I said? Red Rover Readers, the one we're here to talk most about today. Red Rover Readers programs are classroom-based social emotional learning program designed to promote empathy in that animal-based program. So what brings us here today, bringing more about the Red Rover Readers program to you to life. Perhaps you've already taken the training. Thank you so much for being here. We're glad you tuned in. And perhaps this is completely new and you're interested in taking the training. We hope you will be. But it is an animal-centered social emotional learning program, and it can help children develop empathy and perspective taking and emotional regulation. And we want to talk a little bit more about how interventions like these in the Red Rover Readers program can provide positive experiences for children affected by domestic violence and other traumas to promote that healing and resiliency. So today we're going to do a little bit of listening, and then an activity with the types of questions we use in the Red Rover Readers program, and then lots of questions at the end. Sound okay? All right, next slide, Minha. Okay. So a quick reflection. If you would, please, I invite you to take about a moment. Think of a time an animal or a story has helped you through a tough time. How did they help you? I invite you to share in the chat. Zero pressure to share anything you're not comfortable with, completely fine. But if you have a time that you can think of where an animal or story helped you through a tough time, we'd love to hear about it. Ashley, huge dogs lower my blood pressure and they help me just by looking at them. Thanks for sharing that, Ashley. Crystal saying, Brewster was attacked a couple of years ago and we had to remove his leg, but it taught me a whole bunch about being resilient. Thank you, Crystal, for sharing that. More coming in. Elizabeth, cuddling my cat or my dog. So helpful. Diana, my cat just existing by my side while my family and I were experiencing housing insecurity was a huge support. Guzman NL saying my cat was very supportive when I was going through my divorce. Tasha Flores chiming in with my dog helped me when I was going through a major life transition, emotional support being in a new city. Amelia adding that her dog Boo was there for her family when they were going through a particularly stressful time, when she was loving a fluffy reason to get up every morning. Thank you for adding those, everyone. Adriana, during a rough time, my pup helped me forget and calmed me and kept me so busy, so supportive and filled with love. Thank you for those. And Summer added, in the hospital for a year, my dog visiting on the weekends really helped. Lindsay sharing that my dog always curled up next to me when I can't get out of bed. So many others. I invite you to continue sharing those reflections. Thank you for sharing what you're comfortable with. Animals and stories helping us through a hard time. Minhan, if you'll advance the slide, please. Thank you. So as we saw from some of the chats there in that quick reflection, animals are supportive for adults. Well, they're supportive for children as well. And children can tell their secrets to animals, and animals give unconditional love. They help lower stress, they help lower anxiety, and they can help us through difficult times. And unfortunately, domestic violence is a major health concern for children worldwide, and children may suffer physical and psychological consequences. Many of you on this call are already aware that trauma may be affecting the children in your programs, whether you have a humane education program and you're hailing from an animal shelter, or you have domestic violence, human shelters, or family resource centers. You can attest to the children going through your programs are experiencing trauma or may be experiencing trauma. And children who witness animal cruelty or abuse may have anxiety, may be displaying those anxious behaviors. They may show depression. They may have maladaptive coping skills. They might have lower academic performance or social abilities. And the goal of providing a RedRover Readers intervention or another social emotional learning, humane education, healing intervention is to offset and help provide another narrative for how the world can work in a safe and happy, healthy space. There's a lot of research, as I'm sure many of you are already aware. One study that stood out to me was from 2018, researcher Cho, found aggressive behaviors and depression and anxiety and juvenile delinquency for kids who had witnessed domestic violence in their own families. And um, I should mention that for any of you who want to look into that more depth, there's an overview from 2023 called The Psychological Complications of Children Exposed to Domestic Violence, a systemic review. And the lead researching author was Droudchi, Droudchi, for anyone who would like to know more about that. They pull in a lot of research articles, so but kids might show up in shelters with those anxious behaviors. They might be fidgeting. They might be, hard to sit still. They may be withdrawn or just seem fearful in general. And, they're going through a crisis. Their world is upside down. So providing that calm, that comfort, and that reassurance in a safe space is oh so important to combat those adverse childhood experiences. Next slide, please. We talk a little bit about the link, and we adapted this image from the National Link Coalition. So thank you, National Link Coalition, for really naming and addressing this link between human and animal violence. But there are different types of abuses, and the link refers to where there's one type of abuse or neglect happening. Oftentimes we find others types of abuse or neglecting. So training first responders, as well as teachers and social workers, and others in our field as well, about the link and how to report and spot different types of abuse is important to help the children or the adults or the animals get the help that they need if they are experiencing those crises. So like many of you already know this, but just to define our terms, domestic violence includes various types of violence, like physical or sexual abuse or emotional abuse, and that's usually referred to as intimate partner violence. And it can include the child abuse and the elderly abuse and the domestic violence and the sibling abuse and animal abuse. So again, where there's one, there's often another, and being trained to recognize the signs of those violence. 3 million children, unfortunately, have suffered domestic violence consequences, and that's just from a 2019 study by Mastrokas and Scott. Our researcher's name is Mastrokas, Mastorakos, and Scott, Scott, from 2019. And then forward of the COVID-19 pandemic, when all of us, the kind of world shut down and we were in closed spaces more, we saw more prevalence of domestic violence situations. So those numbers are likely higher. So why am I telling you this? Could be repetitive for some. We want to combat these ACEs, these adverse childhood experiences. And we want to provide a new narrative, a new way that children and families in programs can see the world as not as this crisis and scary and oh no, but as a safe and healthy of what's possible in a healthy environment. Okay, next slide, please. If you could advance the next slide, please, Minho. Thank you so much. So what is the RedRover Readers program? The RedRover Readers program started in 2007, and it was the brainchild of then RedRover's president and CEO, Nicole Forsythe. And Nicole saw a need to help children learn empathy for animals to combat cruelty and neglect that was happening. So the RedRover Readers was born. It was first called the Humane Education Ambassador Reader Program, but that was a mouthful, the HEAR program. So at its core, it's a social emotional learning program targeting elementary school children. And we do that purposely because it's at 8 and 9 and 10 years old that children are really gaining the ability to take the perspective of others, and not just others, taking the perspective of what one person might be feeling, but also that ability to triangulate the perspective taking skills. So I can recognize what someone else might be feeling about someone else or about an animal. So that triangulation is then coming online in our elementary school population, specifically around 3rd and 4th grade. So in the RedRover Readers program, we have over 18 books in the core program, and then we have 17 additional books that we've added recently while working with our partners on the extension curriculums. And our partners, the Sacramento Native American Health Center, SNAC, as well as our partners in South Texas at the Forest School, have helped us put together extension curriculums. And each book has its teaching guide that goes with the book. And educators who are trained to use the RedRover Readers program do so in groups of children. And they read the pre-selected books, they ask questions, and then they engage in thoughtful discussions, open-ended responses, and then they do activities that reinforce the concepts like trust and respect and responsibility, empathy, also self-awareness, social awareness, emotional regulation, and also concepts like just having a home and the importance of having a home or importance of having a name and what it means to be happy and healthy. So you can start to see that there's some flexibility and ways to extend the RedRover Readers program as designed into different environments like the shelter setting, but also youth group settings and libraries, etc., that might not reflect the traditional classroom environment. So what makes the RedRover Readers program and other similar humane education programs wonderful and unique is the neutral and non-judgmental approach that we use. So we're not leading children to any information. We're not telling them what to think. We're not telling what's right and wrong. We're responding neutrally and non-judgmentally to whatever they're saying and whatever they're going through. And it's this approach that allows us to transfer this program into the different settings, regardless of children's experiences with animals, because anything they say is okay. And that might be sitting not well with many of you, and you might want to challenge that, but it's important for children to be able to speak freely and to really tell you what they're really thinking, because children are people pleasers, and oftentimes they're just looking for what the right answer is, and they're trying to figure out what they should say or what do I do here. And in the RedRover Readers intervention, we set up a space where it's okay to say what they might be thinking, even if that's not a popular comment or way of thinking. Let's see. Oh, here, in terms of accessibility, there is a way to take the training RedRover Readers Workshop free. Just by being here today, you'll get a code for taking that at no cost to you. And then it is always okay to take a refresher course. So as many times as you'd like to take it and learn it as the RedRover Readers program is designed to be implemented, we invite you to. There are materials in Spanish. There is a downloadable ebook that you use just as one of the books in the program. And there's ongoing support for people who have trained in additional resources. So the way it works, you take the workshop, you schedule 5 consecutive readings. It is designed to be used in 5 consecutive readings with 5 different books and activities, one right after another, maybe 1 week apart or 1 day apart. And that's what's done most often in traditional classroom setting. But it is flexible enough if you can only read 1 or 2 times, 1 or 2 books, and do activities with children going through your programs, that is completely acceptable. And there are other ways to adapt the program to your programs, to your shelter settings. Those of you who are here today may have already taken the RedRover Readers program, or you have your own humane education program. We would love to hear from you. I want to know how that's going. I would love to hear how these interventions are helping to support the people going through program. And at RedRover, we do a lot of collaboration, and we promote that collaborative sense because we are stronger together. So I would love to hear if you're already doing this, how it's going. And if you are not already doing this, contact us if it's something you'd like to start. Okay, Minhan, if you'd advance the slide. Thank you so much. And here is a video. And after the video, I'm going to ask you what stood out to you.
want you to look at Max's ears and tell me, what do you think his ears being up are communicating?
But he's excited.
He's excited. Red Rover has taught me how to teach the students and have them internalize the process of perspective taking so that they can understand better how to get along and work together and listen to each other. That's a huge component of it.
Part of the vision for RedRover Readers is really to make a compassionate society for both people and animals. You know, this program was initiated because we wanted to really find a really effective way of preventing abuse and neglect in animals, but it's also clearly beneficial to people too. And having been a school teacher myself, my own reason why I went into teaching was to make the world a more compassionate place.
I love when I get to do a Red Rover lesson because it's engaging. It's naturally the students are interested in animals.
How about this picture? How is the boy feeling in this picture?
Sad.
Can you tell he feels sad?
Because his face
What about his face?
and his frown.
The program has helped my students feel much more valued and listened to. They feel honored. They feel safe to share things because there's no wrong answer. What do you think Max is trying to communicate to the boy? When we were reading Max Talks to Me, and there was a situation where the boy was being bullied and Max was comforting him, I had a student reflect that really that impacted him and made him think about the way he treated his little brother. And he admitted that sometimes he feels like he bullies his little brother, and he wanted to be a better brother because of the story.
I'm gonna try to be a better to my brother. I want to show him that I can be a better brother and play with him more.
When RedRover Readers talks about bringing books into classrooms and they're about the relationships between animals and people, it's really more than that. It's about how do you pay attention to others around you? How do you understand their behavior? How do you understand what they're feeling and relate that to how you might feel in that situation?
We're creating people who can question and think for themselves so that they can be part of making the world a better place.
My favorite and how I feel is happy about animals because they get treated right, and sometimes I didn't really care about them. Now I care about them.
We train the teachers how to ask questions about the characters in the books, both the human characters and the animal characters, to make that bridge. They're way more excited about talking about animals. I mean, that we know teachers tell us that over and over again, that kids are just naturally drawn to talking about animals. Even if they're afraid of dogs, they're still fascinated by them. They're curious. They're just interested. There's a mystery around animals because they can't talk to us, but we do know that they can communicate with us. And helping kids understand how that communication happens and how they can listen more to the animals in their homes or the animals in their neighborhood, they're very engaged and very interested.
They show interest by leaning forward and their eyes are up, and they're, some of the more shy students who maybe wouldn't participate because it's such a safe, validating program and way of teaching, they're willing to jump in.
Because the books are like interesting and they teach us about animals.
It's magic. It's truly magic in the classroom.
Be prepared for that simple strategy to really change your classroom. Be prepared for the empathy development to change the way you think about how you interact with students. That it's a big gift to be part of this program.
Thank you for showing that, Minhag. What stood out to you about that video? That is an open question, modeling the types of questions we use in the RedRover Readers program. There's no wrong answer. There's really no right answer. What stood out to you? Children are more engaged with stories about animals. Thanks, Julia. Other thoughts? How the kiddos were making connections and relating it back to their own life. Jennifer, the personal connections stood out to Jennifer. A few others. Jennifer added, and changing their behavior after participating. Hannah, being able to read emotions Animals, just like people, it's a life skill. Thanks, Hannah. And a few others. What stood out to you about that video? It allows them to show their emotions and feelings. The development and the growth of empathy within young learners. Thank you, Milena and Sylvia. The emphasis on empathy skills and animal behavior, asking about what the dog's ears mean. How can you tell that's how they're feeling? From Chelsea. Thanks, Chelsea. Showing kids that animals feel and communicate with people and how they do that in their body language. Okay, Adriana. All right. Thank you for going with us on that journey and watching the video. And we'll advance the slide now, please. So social emotional learning and humane education, benefits and evidence, both are very effective. Social emotional learning does improve social emotional learning skills, so the social skills, but also academic performance and social behaviors. And a great resource, if you haven't already gone down this rabbit hole and you're not already familiar with CASTLE, is the Collaborative of Academic and Social Emotional Learning. It's a great resource for finding more on the benefits of social emotional learning. And just knowing one of the bigger studies that they do share quite often is that social emotional learning builds the social emotional skills that allows children to better able engage in the material. So it's building social skills, and then it's building the ability to engage in the learning more, which stands to reason it would lead to improved outcomes for their academic performance. And one that we hear most often is that social emotional learning interventions that include the 5 core competencies have children performing 11 percentile points over peers who did not participate in the social emotional learning interventions. And those 5 core competencies are the self-awareness, the social awareness, the responsible decision-making, the relationship skills, and the self-management. So where those concepts are being promoted and practiced and reinforced in the social emotional learning and humane education space, you have children performing academically better. And that is a lasting effect. So those long-term effects are seen years later, where the children who did participate in the social emotional learning interventions are still outperforming those who didn't by 13 percentile points. So academic and social emotional skills are being enhanced with those interventions that include those 5 core competencies. And then humane education. So humane education, focusing on cultivating the kindness and empathy for animals, people, and the environment. Research also supports the use of humane education. And let's see, specific research showing the increased empathy and cognitive competence comes from Joe T.K. Nye, NGAI 2021 study. And this one's called The Effectiveness of School-Based Programs on Animal-Assisted Humane Education in Hong Kong for the Promotion of Social Emotional Learning, a quasi-experimental pilot study. And they used 110 students, and they found that the animal-assisted humane education intervention increased cognitive competence, empathy, and reduced hyperactivity. So that is phenomenal. And then with our RedRover Readers program, our very own RedRover Readers program, we worked with SNAC, the Sacramento Native American Health Center, to collaborate and co-create the EAGLES program, which is, I'm going to get this right, Early Ages Gathering to Learn Empathy Through Stories, so EAGLES. And children who participated in the EAGLES program had higher emotional vocabularies after participating. So they were better able to communicate how they were feeling, what emotions, they had more of a vocabulary for what emotions exist. And so it stands to reason that if you are better able to communicate in emotional vocabulary, you're better able to say what you're going through or recognize what other people are going through in order to work through that hard time or that crisis, or to get help for those emotions that you're experiencing, and building resilience. So, And then this last bullet here is stories. Stories and storytelling really help children, build the resilience and process emotions. Stories help with building knowledge and coping skills. And the children can see themselves reflected in the stories that we're using, and they can practice how they would respond. Would they do it the same as a character in the story did, etc. And they can practice their imagination. Stories help build imagination, and in doing so, help build perspective taking. And perspective taking is a precursor for building empathy skills. So stories as a safe place to explore our feelings, coupled with the RedRover Readers approach of that neutral, non-judgmental, make it okay for children to express what they are going through. You may hear children actually saying, I hate cats. My mom made my cats leave. And that would be completely fine to share. It's what they're going through. It's what they're feeling. And it's come up in the context of a book you're reading about cats in the RedRover Readers program. And the response to that is not judging, not telling what's right or wrong. It is simply, so you don't like cats. You think that they made your mom leave. Tell me more about that. Or you may say, how does that make you feel? So you see, you're just extending what is said, you're not adding judgment, and you're helping children work through whatever it is that they may be going through. All right. And we'll go to the other slide. Oh, yes, perfect, thank you. So more on applying the RedRover Readers approach in different environments. So family shelters, community resource centers, animal shelters, domestic violence shelters, transitional housing. It's that neutral non-leading approach, right? So with the books that show examples of resilience, show characters, making it through and thriving after some adversity has happened to them. They're practicing, and they're seeing, hey, it'll be okay, resilience. We can transfer the program into different environments with a little preparation, right? So this is just identifying a space that would be conducive to a reading. Maybe it's a quiet corner. Maybe it is a playroom. Maybe it's just the cafeteria after everybody's not in there anymore. And it's a quiet room that a volunteer or a staff person can lead a story and a question time for children and the families going through your program, and provide that positive experience that is not directly related to the crisis that they are in. And this is a concept that we were just on a call with the good people at Safe Voices in Maine, and their executive director, Rebecca Austin, shared this concept about having positive experiences for families. And it's not all just about, housing insecurity or the abuse that they just talked about and their situation, but it's those positive experiences that are not directly related to it. And so it's a feel good, and it's helping to strengthen that bond between the families and provide a story and a calm time for them to see this new narrative about the way the world can be with healthy, responsible decisions and responsible relationships. Yes, so shout out there to Safe Voices. Thanks, Rebecca. And integrating with after school and family services. So I mentioned again about collaboration and we being stronger together. Think about who else in your environment and your communities may also have programs like this that are using social emotional learning, that are set up with an animal shelter or other group doing humane education, and could help support the children and families in transitional settings and environments. Tips for trauma-informed facilitation. And while there are many, and several of you may have yours, I'd love to see those as well in the chat, feel free. At the end of the day, it's really listening to what the people in programs are, listening to everyone, but listening to the children and what they say, because it is extremely affirming, and it helps reinforce that you heard them, but also it helps you know that you heard them correctly. and listening, and it makes you feel important to be listened to, and children, just want to feel important. Let's help them feel important. Also, stay out of judgment. So we're not saying, oh, that's great that you did that, or, oh, it's wonderful that you have a dolly, or it's removing the judgment words from our vocabulary and just asking more about that. Oh, tell me how you feel, or, oh, who is this that you have with you? Because it invites the child out and it invites them to share more. Repeating back what is said in the discussion also helps to affirm and clarify what is said, but also helps them feel listened to. So we coach people to repeat back. It also gives you time to think. So sometimes kids say the hardest things to hear, and if you repeat it back, you're giving yourself time to pause and then choose the best neutral, non-judgmental approach and response. And then giving choice. And this is huge because there's power in agency. And when you have a choice, you feel more in control in an otherwise uncontrollable situation. So which book do you want to read today? Or where do you want to read? Choose the location or choose the activity. Do you want to color right now, or do you want to do another book? So wherever there's opportunity for choice, and always listen and don't judge. Okay, next slide. So I want to do a quick activity based around the types of questions. And there's several types of questions in the RedRover Readers program, but here are two. And one is an open question that invites thought and discussion and sharing, and there are no wrong answers for. And one is a closed question where there's just basically a yes or no, or a black and white response. So there's going to shut down the thinking with a closed question. So how do you think the dog might be feeling? Is an open-ended, there's no right answer, there's no wrong answer. It's clear we just want to know, how do you think about this? And then in the closed question, is the dog sad? It's kind of a leading question because you've already inserted that word sad, but there's only a yes or no. Yes, the dog is sad. No, the dog is sad. So you see how that is, it requires less thought. It's shutting down thinking. You're not actually asking what anybody else is thinking. You're just trying to lead the conversation, and you're only providing one or two responses. So knowing that difference, next slide, please. Thank you, Minhan. So we're going to do a quick interactive activity. If you would, please, I invite you to think of your own closed question about anything. It could be the animal book, could be anything that you may use in programs. And what the closed question is, pop it into the chat if you feel comfortable sharing. Just a closed question, a yes or no answer, or a black or white. Only two options, kind of closed question answer. Do you live in Jefferson City? Yes, I do, or no, I don't. Did you like the book? Yes or no? Are you mad? Yes or no? All right, y'all get this. Okay. So now that we have closed questions completely understood, right? Just shuts down thinking. Do you like dogs? Yes or no? Is this program helpful? Yes or no? Tells me nothing. All right, Sylvia, thanks for that one. Let's practice the open-ended question. So an open question. If you feel comfortable enough sharing, compose an open question that you might use in this realm or another in your program. What is your favorite animal? How did you feel about this story? What are some things you like to do in Jefferson City? Why is the dog wagging? Why is the tail wagging on the dog? Okay, so open-ended questions. How do you feel about Carly? California, could you tell me about this drawing? Or can you tell me about this drawing? What did you like about the book? How do you feel when you meet a dog? What do you think the dog is thinking? Okay, and all of these are examples of open questions. And they're going to invite the child and the listener and even family members in to the book. They're going to make it much more engaging of a learning experience, and they're going to help the child really take the journey and express and share what they're going through in the relation of the story, but also in relation to what they're experiencing in life. Yeah, Madison with which activity should we do next? And how would this cat like to be approached? How do you think this cat might like to be approached? And how do you think this animal might be feeling? Okay, so pretty clear, right? One shuts down thinking, closed questions. The other, open questions, brings in the thinking and engagement in the lesson and the content. And we do ask closed questions sometimes. We just do, and that's okay. You don't have to rid them from your vocabulary, but much more effective is to err on the side of the open questions, where there's really no wrong or right answer. You're just wanting to hear more about their experience and what they think. All right, we can go to the next slide, please. So this is a page from Buddy Unchained. That is a book from Griffin Press Publishing. We use it in the RedRover Readers program. And it is a story. It is not our story. It is just a story. It's Buddy telling his story, right? So we're not coming in saying there's a right or wrong way to do things. We're just sharing a story. So let's try it again with our closed question and our open question. If you feel comfortable sharing in the chat, what is, and you don't have to read the slides to do this, so just based on the image, what is an open question that you could ask if you saw this page, or if you were reading this book, or if you saw this interaction while you were with the children and families in your programs? What is one open-ended question that you could ask? Okay, so is the boy being nice to the dog would be a closed question because there's a yes or no, right? So a way to turn that into an open question would be, what do you think the boy might be feeling in this picture? Or what do you think the boy might be doing in this picture? How do you think the dog is responding? How do you think the dog might be feeling? Those are open. Thanks, Anna. Great example. How would you feel if you got stuck? So how would you feel if you were the dog? Okay, Anna. How do you think the dog feels? Yes. Linda sharing, what do you think the dog is feeling or thinking in this picture? Okay, so really open, and there is no wrong answer. Okay. Why is the girl in the mud? So why do you think the girl is in the mud? They might have a very awesome child response for why. How does this make you feel to see this? Okay. Why do you think the boy is throwing things at the dog? Okay. After you've established the boy is throwing things, and after you've read it, then that question would come in. But before, it would be a leading question. But yep, that is an open question. Thank you, Carla. Sylvia, is the dog afraid? So Sylvia is asking a closed question. Yes, the dog is afraid, or no, the dog is afraid would be those responses. So that's how you know it's closed. And so one way to turn that into an open question is to say, how do you think the dog might be feeling? Then they answer, oh, I think the dog might be afraid or scared. And then you'd say, how can you tell? Because that how can you tell helps them clue into the body language that tells them they know that it's this making them feel afraid. But how do they know? Now they get to practice. I know because his ears are back, and they are further engaging in the information. Okay, coming down here. What do you see happening here? So really opening it up. And Ashley, that's actually a question we ask before we read this page. So what do you think is going on in this page? And sometimes the children will say, the children are trying to break the chain. They're throwing things at the chain to free Buddy. So it's really fascinating what children will say, and to get their responses before we say the words is really a cool experiment each time. Okay. So then I'm going to read the book, and it's once in a while, kids threw things at me. I couldn't protect myself. I don't know why they did that. When I get twisted in my chain, I couldn't sit down or move until someone from the house came to untangle it. And we'd talk about understanding body language, we'd talk about how do you know this might be happening. And this is a book that may be a great one to use in domestic violence programs or transitional housing programs, because it is demonstrating the resilience. In the beginning of this story, Buddy is remembering back to when he had a dark and really scary place. And then he is at the end where he's in this beautiful, warm, loving family space. So it's, again, showing that the character will get through it and that they will thrive after their adverse experiences. Yeah, and really the point here is the open questions that, thank you for taking that journey and sharing those, will help the children open up, and they will help engage not only with the material, but engage with their own feelings and their experiences. So it was my aim to share with you more, peek behind the RedRover Readers program screen and how interventions like these may be used to support kids building empathy and resilience in other environments. It's that neutral, non-judgmental approach. It's listening to the students to affirm them. It's encouraging them to talk through what they're going through, even if it has nothing to do with their current crisis, but talking through nonetheless. And then it's showing examples of people and animals who have made it through the rough times and are thriving and are resilient. So we would love to hear from you if you are using the RedRover Readers program in this context, or if you'd like to use the RedRover Readers program in these environments, or if you're using another Humane education program for healing. So thank you so much for spending your time with me today, and we're going to turn it over to Minhan and Danielle for some wrap up.
Hi, everyone. My name is Minhan. I'm the program manager here at Red Rover. I help manage our Red River Readers program. If you like to get started with the Red River Readers program, we do offer a self-paced online course at redrover.org/on-demand. There's a QR code there that you can scan and it'll pull up that registration form. You can also just visit the link I just mentioned, which is at redrover.org/on-demand. And since you're part of today's DFTP audience, you can use the free discount code EMPATHY to access the training. Once you're trained, you'll receive ongoing support from our team, plus access to resources like our ebook and Kind News, our children's magazine that helps reinforce empathy and kindness in classrooms and homes. If you're interested in partnering or exploring how the program could fit within your organization or shelter, we'd love to connect with you. Just reach out to us at readers@redrover.org. Thank you.
Thanks, Minhan. Thanks, Carly. So we'll keep this one really brief because most of you are familiar with our Don't Forget the Pets project. This is a Don't Forget the Pets webinar today. But just a reminder to all who are joining us today that if you need additional support, Don't Forget the Pets really is here for you. We offer a variety of education and training resources, including our training workshops, our new online course, this series of guest presentations, which we will be restarting with a whole new group of guest presenters in 2026. If you are a domestic violence or a homeless shelter that would like to implement more pet-friendly programming at your facility, at your organization, you may want to take a look at our one-on-one coaching program, where we provide one-on-one technical support and assistance tailored just for you. We also have our document library and our video libraries where presentations like this one live permanently. And of course, I always like to remind everyone that all of the resources at Don't Forget the Pets are always free all of the time.
And we do have time for presentation questions. And we would love your feedback. So there's a QR code if you'd like to take a feedback, tell us how we did. And what questions might you have?
I do see one question in the chat, Carly, that Minhan did already answer, but I think it might be worth reading out loud just so everyone knows. Gabriella asked if the case managers on her team could also use the same discount code to access the Readers Workshop. And Minhan kindly answered, absolutely. So if there are other members of your team that you think would benefit from this training that weren't able to join us today, yes, please feel free to have them use that discount code. Lots and lots of thank yous coming through the chat, Carly. Lots of comments on what a great presentation this was. I strongly agree. A question from Hannah. She said, so do we buy the books or is there an exchange program? How do folks who have completed the training access the books, Carly?
Yeah, great question. So we do have a loan library, so we can share those books with you. Much more often, people get them at their local libraries to use them in their programs. Some people do buy them themselves. And if you are partnering with Red Rover to implement the Red Rover Readers program, we may have a set or two to share with you at your facility. So definitely contact us if you're having trouble securing the books. There is a book list online at redrover.org/books. All the program books and our extensions are there. And Minhan and I would love to support you and make sure that you have access to all the books that you'll need to implement the program after you've taken the workshop.
Amazing. I see a comment from Crystal who says, my agency is starting the process to be pet friendly. So that's very exciting. We love to hear that, Crystal. If you would like any support or assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Hannah commented, amazing. Thank you so much. I work for a nonprofit animal shelter in Colorado. This is a fantastic program and I can't wait to get started. Thank you, Hannah.
I'm so glad that it was valuable. Even if it was just for Hannah, I appreciate you.
Well, I don't think it was from Hannah, Carly. I did get a private message from Carla earlier who said that she would love to do the training and start doing this at their Family Resource Center.
That's great news. That is great news. We'd love to know, where this stretches and extends. We'd love to work with you to help support your efforts, provide tips, and just learn from you what is working, really, because you're the experts in the field. So very, very excited for where this goes from here.
Like we have another question from Gabriella. She is asking, do you guys have surveys or evaluations that you give out after the classes to the clients who take it?
We do. So we have a pre-post test that we can give out, really relying on our partner organizations and what's the most meaningful, what they're trying to measure, and then making sure that the intervention matches those aims. But yes, at the basic level, anecdotal evidence, what are the kids commenting, and then where are those gains happening for the pre-post test? Yes.
Amazing. Thanks, Carly. Julie asked, could we incorporate this with volunteers and rescue dogs?
Yes, and most they'll do the Red Rover Readers program first with no live animals present, and then they'll partner with their live animal, maybe it's canine companions or other rescue groups that have animal assistance programs set up, and bring them in as a complement to the intervention.
That makes sense. I can imagine having the dogs in the room the first time they go through the stories and the curriculum is probably quite distracting. I know if I were a little kid, honestly, even now, I would find it hard to focus on the stories with animals right there in the room with me.
Yeah.
But that's great that some folks use it as a complement after they've gone through the material. That's great. Does anyone, we do have more questions coming through in the chat, but I just wanted to give an opportunity to anyone who maybe wanted to ask their question live, unmute themselves. We can just pause questions in the chat for a moment to give anyone who would like to unmute an opportunity to do so. All right, then we'll dive back in. Carly, Sophia asked, or she said, I create curriculum for advocates in the state of Missouri. I'm going to share this far and wide. I can see this being a great resource. It's very exciting.
Love to hear how it goes, Sophia. Thanks for sharing that.
And then question from Linda. Linda unfortunately was called into work and so had to miss the first half of the presentation today. She's wondering if she can get access to the recording. Absolutely, yes. For everyone that attended today, you'll receive a follow-up email either later this week or likely early next week with a link both to the recording of today's webinar as well as a link to the beautiful slide deck that Minhan created. And then yes, for folks who weren't able to join us today but did register, they will receive a link to that recording as well. So yes, you will receive that link and you can catch up on everything that you missed.
Anita, I see your question about the completely free. It is completely free to take the training with that code. There are minimal costs included if we need to run a background check. If it's a volunteer, typically we work with volunteers who have background checks through their agency, so it's non-issue. There's other minimal costs. Like I said, if you choose to buy your books, that would be, but we do have free loaners. So I don't want to say it's completely free and then have somebody say, oh, you said it was free. But yes, in large part, you can implement the RedRover Readers program free and with our support. Yep.
All right, everyone. Well, we have a final comment from Melina, who just says, looking to bring this to my local community. Can't wait to spread the word and begin this process. If anyone else has any questions, please feel free to enter them in the chat. But otherwise, I just want to extend my incredible gratitude to Carly and Minhan for joining us today. Really a wonderful presentation and such a great program that I'm so proud that Red Rover is able to share with the community. So we're so very grateful to have you both here with us today. All right, everyone. Well, we're about 2 minutes past the hour, so we will go ahead and wrap up. Thank you all for joining us for today's presentation. And if you have any follow-up questions for myself, Carly, or Minhan, please feel free to reach out. And again, keep an eye on your inbox for that follow-up email.